Welcome. So today we'll continue from where we left off yesterday. Yesterday we did the first chakra or the root chakra. So today we'll do the chakra, a second chakra. Now chakras, as we discussed yesterday, is nothing but energy channels that run in your body. Concentration of energies that happen in our body, which defines what qualities a person has. And we are looking at balancing all of those chakras to make sure that we get the best output of our human body. First, the second chakra comprises of the hips and the reproductive organs. By doing the poses associated with this chakra, we help remove all the problems and all dysfunctionalities associated with this chakra. Now, who doesn't like buy one get one free? Well, we all do. Imagine if I gave you buy one get three free. In other words, you start with one pose and you end up doing three poses one after another seamlessly, sitting in the same pose. This is popularly called as the flow series in yoga, and flow series you'll probably see it everywhere. They're very, very popular. The simple reason being that you get to do more poses within a short time and they flow seamlessly. So this helps build the heat, and most importantly, they look very beautiful when it's done in a sequence. So today, buy one get three free. Okay. So when you're ready to do the first pose in this series, that's half Lord of the Fish pose. In other words, it's called Ardha Matsyendrasana. Bring your feet out, stretch them all the way out, stand up, sit up straight. If you need to, you can always balance with your hands on the back. So the first thing to do is we'll do the easy version. That's called the seated hip opener. Take one of your leg. I'm going to take you can start with one leg and end doing the other leg. I'm going to take my left leg, gently bring it back onto my right thigh. Right? So if you're comfortably bring it back on right thigh, or if this is all you can do while you're doing the pose, just stay here. The flexibility, the ability to move to the next phase always comes after maybe a couple of weeks or even months. That's perfectly okay. From here, I'm going to take my hands back and gently move my straight leg back. So this brings me to something called the seated hip opener. You can just stay here if you want to. You don't have to move any further. You can just slide it back and forth. Do it until you get all that release in your hips. Now, from here, the next step would be just straighten your leg out. The leg on the top gently becomes straight. Simultaneously, the straight leg becomes bent, coming into a seated position here. That's Ardha half twist. From here, if you're comfortably seated here, you can just make sure that you have a straight spine. I'm going to take my left hand. With an inhale, take your left hand. With an exhale, twist, take your left hand all the way to the back. With the free right hand, lock your knee, coming into a seated twist, Ardha Matsyendrasana. I'm going to lock it straight. Make sure that the twist happens from your torso, not from your chest. It happens from your torso. You want to stay here. I would like to stay here for at least 5 breaths. That's 30 seconds. You want to make sure that you spend more time staying in a pose than the time spent in getting into a pose. The only benefit, that's the only way you'll have the benefit of the pose you're doing. Spend more time staying in the pose. So we'll stay here for 5 breaths. So if you see what's happening here, there's my kidney, spleen, and entire area is getting a full workout. So gently release. Now I'm going to do a counter twist just to make sure that there is no discomfort on this side. Just do a quick counter twist and come back. So that completes the Ardha Matsyendrasana on one side. Now, as we said, it's a flow series. Staying from where you are, gently, I'm just going to take the leg on the top leg, my left leg, gently pull it back. Gently pull it back so you can see what has happened. I've come into a new pose. So this is called the Gomukhasana or the cow facing pose. Now you have an option of two things you can do here. If you want, you can just stay here, make sure you're straight. The 5 commitments always come into pose, whatever pose or wherever you are, whether it's a flow or a non-flow series. So make sure your core is straight, your big smile on your face, and you can stay here, or you can always just take your hands forward, move as much as you can, crawl to the front as much as you can. Gently bring your hips. You can see what's happening in your back. Your back should be getting a very good release. Your hips, your spine and your back. Now, another option here is, you have the left leg on the top. Now gently take your hands back. I'm going to get my left hand on the top this time, since my left leg is on the top. Gently come back into what's called clasp your hands on the back. You have an option of taking the strap, as we've seen in the previous days. Take the strap, you can always hold on to the strap to cut down the distance between your wrists, or you can stay here and you can breathe. Stay here for 5 breaths, please. There's an interesting story to this cow facing pose. In ancient India, the cowboy, what they used to take the cows for grazing. So the cowboy used to sit on a mound or a ledge, and he used to sit himself in this pose and gently gaze at all his cows. So that became the cow facing pose. So at least that's what the legend says. So when you're ready, you can just unclasp your hands. So that completes our second pose in the series. Now from here we'll move on to another interesting pose. Now staying where you are, this may be a little bit complex, do what best you can. I'm going to release my leg here, the leg on the top, I'm going to release it. The other leg, my right leg, comes parallel to the mat. If you look at this, it's parallel to the mat, right? This left leg gently goes back into a straight line, coming into a pose what's called, now gently bend over, bend your front and come and see if you can gently rest your chin on your hands. This is the best you can do. You can just stay here, or you can always stay on a block. You always have a block in front of you. If that helps, to stay here. So ideally I would like to get myself all the way down to the floor. So if you look at my back leg is straight, my front leg is parallel to the mat. Now this is called a one-legged pigeon pose, also called Kapotasana. So what this means is that the reason why we do this pose is, for a large number of people, we have all our emotions locked into our hips. When some people do this pose, they find a tremendous relief in their back. All of a sudden they feel the weight of the world is lifted off their minds. So this is the pose for you. Please try it and see how it works for you. Once we are done, gently come up. Gently come up and see how it feels on your back. Now, if you remember what we did till now, we just did one side, right? We completed one side of the pose for 3 different poses. Now, we'll do the same thing what we did on the other side, and one way to get without any awkwardness coming out of this pose is I like to do a downward dog from here. Gently lift yourself up, come into a downward dog. Right? Now once you are in downward dog, take the other leg, bring it to the front, make sure it's parallel to the mat here. Now if you see what you're doing is, we'll do the same 3 pose in reverse. We'll go from back all the way to the first pose. Now same thing, we're just going to do it here. Again, the one-legged pigeon pose, Ekapada Kapotasana. And just stay here. See how it feels in your hips. Can you feel the release happening in your hips? Or you can always come up, gently stay here. Be sure to do at least 5 breaths. If I haven't mentioned that, please be sure to do at least 5 breaths for each pose to get the full benefits from that pose. Stand up straight. Now, if you complete the pose, we'll come back to our Gomukhasana, pose number 2. All you have to do is take your other leg, bring it back and tie it down, lock it down into a twist here. Stand up straight. Now this time, my right leg is on the left leg, so I'm going to bring my right hand on the top and clasp it on the back. Use a strap or a belt if you have to. And let's take 5 breaths here in Gomukhasana. Or at least 5 breaths. Take as much time if you have to. If you find this pose helps you, you're feeling much better in this pose. If you find the release happen in your hips, stay in this pose. Stand up tall, that's important. So once that's done, gently release. Now if you remember, now we are back to our very first pose. We're going to come back to where we started from. Gently make yourself straight. Now this time this leg is on straight. So what we'll do is, with an inhale, take your right hand, support it in the back and take a twist. Lock it with your left hand, sit up straight. Coming to twist, look back. Let the twist happen from your lower belly, not from the chest, from your lower belly. Be sure to, once the twist happens from your lower belly, then you start twisting your entire head. That's when your head goes back. You don't want to just twist your head and not your torso. Please stay here for 5 breaths. Make sure that you're standing tall. Release. So once that's done, you can gently take your feet to the front. So that's your buy one get three poses flow series. Now I'd like to make a little caution here. Please ensure if you've seen me doing this pose effortlessly, that's because I've been doing these poses for quite some time. So please don't get disheartened if you find that these poses are hard to come by. If you find yourself barely being able to get even a single thing done, that's completely okay. That's how every one of us starts from. That's how I was in the beginning. I barely could move myself. I barely had any flexibility in my body when I did my first yoga class. And this is where you'll reach after probably a couple of weeks or a couple of months. The important thing is, please make sure that you're doing yoga every day to allow your body to absorb that stretch and put your body at ease.
Welcome to your life lesson of the day. At some point, I felt like I should share my yoga knowledge with the rest of the world. That's when I decided to make this yoga series, which you are a part of. And I did talk to many people to get their advice on how to go about doing that. Everyone suggested I hire a professional video shooting team, get hold of a jazzy, fancy looking yoga studio where everything is professional. But in spite of all that advice, I went against the grain and I decided to shoot this entire video series in this small little room. Because I realized that the very essence of yoga is about being able to find joy and contentment. So whatever we are doing now, whether it's a meditation or whether it's the yoga poses or the life lessons, what's happening now, the very essence is to find the joy and contentment inside you. Now, you could be stuck in a bad place in your life. Your life could have turned out in a way that you never thought it would. In spite of that, you should be able to reach that place of joy inside you where things will all be okay, where you know that things will be fine. So that is the very essence of yoga. Now, if you look at it, every human being in this planet is in search of happiness. To get this happiness, what are the things we don't do? We fly 10,000 kilometers to a god-forsaken place on the other side of the planet, surrounded by complete strangers whom we have never met in our lives. We stand on a sandy beach. It has happened to me. We stand on a sandy, beautiful beach and you realize how lonely and desolate you are. Your thoughts are going towards your family back home. What's happening in your home? What's happening in your city? What's happening with your friends? What's happening in your office? Or all you could do is you could just stay at home, just roll out your mat. Anytime you're feeling unease, depressed, all you have to do is roll out your mat in your backyard or in your basement or in one of your living rooms and be able to dive deep inside and find that same joy and happiness. The very essence of everything we are doing now today, these lessons, these yoga poses, these life lessons, is to help you discover that joy instantaneously. Just by being in a mat, you should be able to dive deep inside you. You should be able to simply turn on that switch and find that happiness and joy. That is the very essence which this yoga course is working towards. At its very core, yoga is not about twisting yourself into a pretzel or chanting, which yoga is being commonly associated with. Now, all these are simply tools to help you find the real essence of yoga, to help you reach the real purpose of yoga, which is be able to connect with yourself deep inside, be able to find that fortress of solitude. Now, the word fortress of solitude comes from Superman comics. Now, that's a place somewhere in North Pole. Anytime Superman doesn't feel well, he gets depressed, he needs motivation, he just flies over there, stays there and regains his mojo back. Now, you have to be able to reach your fortress of solitude deep inside you. It's a place where time and distance stand still. It's a place where It's beyond fear of loneliness, beyond fear of sickness, beyond fear of death. When you go there, you know that everything in your life will be okay. And that is the very essence of yoga, which this series works towards. And I hope you are able to find your fortress of solitude, no matter whatever situation you are in your life. Thank you.